Hey everybody, I'm David Page, and welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. My guests today are a married couple known as the 2FOODTRIPPERS, who moved to Europe and now travel the world in search of great meals. Here are Daryl and Mindy Hirsch. Daryl and Mindy, how are you? Thanks for doing this.
Hi, and I guess hello from Lisbon, Portugal.
Well, Lisbon's the place to be now, isn't it?
It has become quite the hotspot. Very different from when we moved here 5 years ago, and way different from our first visit in 2007.
Yeah.
How's the food?
The food is good. I think everybody goes a little gaga for the food, but I think being in a European country is a great thing. It's a seafood capital. If you're looking for great seafood, this is the place to find it. The restaurant food is very simple in general. Now, granted, there are more luxurious restaurants, but we love to cook at home. That's also great, too.
So let's start with your story. You guys now make a living by flying all over the world to eat, which sounds like a scam to me. How did you guys become the 2FOODTRIPPERS?
We met over food. Now, we've been married since 2007. And we met in 2006, and we talked about bagels, and it just immediately hit it off. And then from there, I had worked in the food industry for a while, and Mindy and I just always loved to travel for food. That was a big thing. And we wanted to start a website, and we were going to we'll do a travel website, it'd be really great. And then Mindy's sister, if I recall.
Well, what happened was we wanted to start a travel website, but we were working full time. So we're like, what are we going to write about when we only travel a few weeks of the year at that time? So we're like, well, we'll write about food too, as an afterthought. And here we are 12 years later, and we write about food every day.
Well, it's because your sister's like, you guys are into food, write about food. So, and the funny part was when we were doing it in the beginning, everybody was writing about travel. And people were like, you write about food? That is certainly changed.
Yes.
Well, you both grew up loving food, or you came to it late? Did moms cook well?
I think our mothers cook decently well. It depends. I guess through the years, things always move and evolve. I worked in New York in my 20s and had gone to some really amazing restaurants. And also, I don't know, growing up, I think in our generation, was the first food TV. I even remember being in college watching the show The Great Chefs. And from there, Food Network came along, and it's been an evolving thing. I always went, as a kid, we went out to dinner all the time. But then to see that there were these wonderful chefs doing all these wonderful things, and it was always this thing that I never had, and then really appreciated in my 20s. Now, Mindy may have a slightly different experience.
Well, I think it's fair to say we both loved food always, and we still love food. And it was more of a hobby. I remember when I was living in New York in the 90s, Zagat was a thing, and I had the Zagat guide. I would check all the restaurants off as I ate at them. But it's really just been in the last, I would say, couple decades that our hobby became our full focus.
Yeah.
So how did it start? What'd you do?
How did it start? Wow. I was so into food when I met Mindy. I loved cheese. Cheese was kind of my touchstone to begin with.
Oh, that was your hello line for ladies. Hi, I love cheese.
Yeah.
Hi. Cheese. No, whatever. I think we met at the kind of an age where we were our tastes were getting so sophisticated and getting more into drinking great wines, going out to dinner, doing all of those kinds of things. And believe it or not, things started simply, and I think it's just grown over the last 2 decades. Thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
In fact, when Daryl went to work for the restaurant group in Philadelphia, he initially wanted to potentially open a cheese shop. That's how obsessed with cheese he was. Yeah. But working at this restaurant group had a cheese counter.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for him to realize that was not what he wanted to do.
Or maybe not have the skills to do. Retail, I was really sour on retail. Retail is not something that I had a tremendous desire to go into.
But it never took away your passion for cheese.
Oh, no. In fact, if anything, it trained me even more. And I would say I am a cheese professional, but it's been a long time.
Okay, so you were living in Philly, which
yes.
has its share of good restaurants, I would say.
It's a great food town. It's one I would say one of the best places to eat a sandwich in the U.S. Absolutely.
Which sandwich?
Well, everybody talks about the cheesesteak, of course, but there's the roast pork Italian, which has always been my favorite, which is roast pork, little broccoli rabe, sharp provolone. It's just so fantastic. And I don't know. I mean, I come back to Philly and the sandwiches are humongous. I don't even know how I would eat them back then, but we ate a lot.
No, but the roast pork, I make it at home myself these days.
Yeah.
The roast pork is the true Philly sandwich, not the cheesesteak, in my view.
I would say so. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you've always been a John's roast pork guy.
Yeah, John's roast
but
pork.
there's other sandwiches too. There's sandwiches.
There's Italian subs. I mean, I think because there was such a very active Italian community in Philadelphia that that kind of sandwich culture grew. And I mean, it's all a combination of things from like over a century of evolution. It grew into this monstrous sandwich that everybody loves. So, yeah.
It's also, you can't have a great sandwich without great bread. And there's just great baking in Philly.
Oh, yeah. The thing is about the cheesesteak, which is kind of odd, the bread should be served on, everybody has this idea of artisan bread and all this type of stuff. But I think over the years, industrialization has created this kind of soft bread that's very appropriate for cheesesteaks. You wouldn't want to eat a cheesesteak on a French baguette. It's definitely more a product of something different.
Okay, so you're in Philly and you decide to start this. Where did you start going? What were some memorable trips?
Well, our very first trip we took once we started the website, we spent basically a day and a half in London and then went to eastern France where we went through the Savoie and over to Burgundy and to Lyon. So it was like, I guess it was a kickoff. We have a website now. We're going to roll and travel to all these places. But I mean, over the years, Mindy, what year did we leave the country?
2016.
2016. So we decided, after working a series of crazy jobs and everything else like that, and Mindy was in the corporate world for a while, so we decided to really make the big jump in 2016. Took this unbelievable 2-month road trip. I always wanted to take a road trip, never realized how hard it would be through the entire United States, like going all the way through the South, all the way down to Texas, all the way through Arizona, California, Seattle, going across, it's just places that, even like Missouri. I don't know how we ended up in Missouri. I have no idea. But just doing all that. And then at the end of that road trip, we saw some family in New York and then bolted on a plane to France and spent a month in Lyon. So, we've taken on a number of great trips through the years.
Well, let's start with the U.S. What'd you explore in the U.S. and for how long?
Well, that particular road trip, as Daryl mentioned, was 2 months. And we hit a bunch of cities, including, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Nashville,
Miami,
Miami,
New Orleans, of
Charleston, Nashville,
Houston, which I never thought I'd like Houston as much as we did, even though we were there for such a short period of time.
And like you said, all the way to the west, back again. But we've done other trips as well. More recently, we've been to New Haven to eat pizza. We spent a week in Chicago where we also ate pizza, among other things.
We spent a lot of time in Las Vegas, which is one of the sort of it's always been in front of you as a food destination, but people generally don't think of it that way. But it's one of the really great food destinations in the U.S. We've been through San Francisco and Napa, Sonoma, places like that. So we spent a week in Portland, loved it up there. So, the United States is so rich in food culture. It's really hard to pin down sometimes.
So what is American food culture?
American food culture, to me, is an openness to evolve that may not exist in many other foreign food cultures. You'll see different mashups. The idea, it's a reinvention more outwardly. Now, granted, to get really deep here, I don't want to, we live in Europe. Europe has great traditions. And these traditions are almost immovable. We were just in Italy, and if you say to an Italian person, I want to do this on pizza, people talk about pineapple, but other
cheese with fish.
Yeah, cheese with fish or something like that. They would say, no, we don't do that. In America, it's like some guy who no one was paying attention is like, well, I don't know. I got this laying around. I got this laying around. I'm going to put them together, and we're going to try lots of new things. It's a reflection of a identity in America that is built of difference to me, especially in places like New Orleans, in New York. I mean, we celebrate international culture in New York. In New Orleans, people don't realize that the Italian meets, some Cajun meats, all the French, Spanish, all of those things are happening all at one time. And what's great is because we have such a documentation of history much more recently in America, we can see it all happening at once. Whereas, and I don't want to get too long-winded with this, in Italy, they think that, Italian food existed in a vacuum, but what made their food so great was maybe 300 or 400 years ago. You had places like Venice with the Silk Road coming in, we were just in Campania last week, and the influence of the French, of Greek cultures, of North African cultures coming in to make this amazing food set in places like Naples. That's where you get things like pizza and an unbelievable pastry scene. It's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because I was just reading an article about a great controversy in Italy now over a pizza maker, a well-known pizza maker, who is putting pineapple on pizza, and it's like the sky is falling. How do you guys come out on pineapple pizza?
If it works, if you season it the right way, if you have a good amount of saltiness to counter the pineapple, maybe a little pork, a little like.
Oh, now hold on. Now we're at ham and pineapple Hawaiian pizza. I won't go that far. At least he seems to be caramelizing the pineapple. No, look, the whole premise of my book, Food Americana, was that we created our own cuisine by modifying and evolving the foods of other cultures and countries. And I think your point is, for the most part, you get a lot less of that in Europe.
It's funny because they want to think that, but that's not correct. Like, for example, we were just in Toulouse, France, and they make what's called, all over France. I think they're from Lyon, especially. There's something called French tacos. I don't know if you've read about it.
I have not.
It's really more of a kebab. It's more of like, not a donut, like a durum kebab, like, a wrapped kebab. And pita, where they call it French tacos. And apparently you don't say taco, you say tacos. And it's just odd, the fact that they even call it a taco. And people who are Mexican, it's not Mexican at all, but they call it a taco. And I don't know how this all came about, but it kind of hits toward like the kind of snack food that French people will eat, which in America will be like, what?
Well, you don't generally walk down the street eating in France.
Not in Europe in general, because eating is much more of a sit-down activity. I've heard rules that you're not supposed to be, even though I'll do it here in Lisbon, I'll walk down with some food and they're like, yeah, look at that tourist. But
you sort of wear a fanny pack and shorts to reinforce your touristy status at that point.
Well, that's where pizza in New York kind of gained a foothold, because it became this thing that you would eat while walking down the street. It was just a different deal. Its portability made it more popular. But as far as pineapples and pizza, I'm all for it. If it works, and it's still a pizza. It's not like they're doing something totally different with it.
Yeah, I'm not on team pineapple, but I don't mind if somebody else likes it. I personally don't like sweet pizzas. That's just me.
Well, you were both just in Campania, was it, in Italy?
Yeah.
What'd you eat? What'd you like? What'd you find?
Mindy, what did we eat?
I think we ate some pizza.
Yes.
We ate a lot of pizza, but not just pizza. We love pizza, but we had, like Daryl said, we had some fabulous pastries.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful pastas.
I think people don't realize it, but you have things from Naples. Like, what were some of the pastries we had? We had pastiera. There was an interesting kind of a holiday pastry called strufoli, which is kind of like they take little pieces of dough and they fry them, and they put almost almost like jimmies on top,
and
like
honey.
nonpareils. Oh, and honey. It's kind of it's definitely like a sort of Levantine inspired kind of pastry in that respect.
Now, would you have this with your espresso or cappuccino, or is it a dessert?
Yeah. That was more of a
thing.
Yeah.
But we ate some markets. We went to a place, a general sort of workers' lunch place in an area called Merciolina, where you go up to the bar and you get maybe a couple contorni and like some home-style chickpea pasta.
Contorni being, for those who don't know,
vegetables. Side vegetable starters, which that's something also in Italy that I've just been, I don't know, maybe as I grow older, looking for more vegetables to eat. It's something I love eating lately. What else do we eat? We had gelato.
A lot of gelato. The flavors are wonderful, especially in Italy, where the better gelato shops all use, very locally sourced pistachios, hazelnuts, lemon.
Yeah,
Did you have stracciatella?
We didn't want stracciatella, I think.
Did we?
Or do we have that?
Well, we had stracciatella in Bergamo about a year ago, and that's where it was invented. So that was pretty good.
Well, let's explain stracciatella.
It's essentially chocolate chip ice cream, but it's with gelato, so it's better.
Well, I just read a piece that says chocolate chip, which used to be the most popular ice cream in America, has now fallen out of the top 10 for some reason.
I saw that as well.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know why.
There was some other flavors though we had over there. There's cassata. Are you familiar with the Sicilian cake called cassata?
No, what is it?
I think it's like cassata is like pistachio, I believe.
It's got candied fruit.
Oh, candied fruit. Oh, it's like definitely like a one to check out. We were in Salerno, and they even had a place where I did a soft serve gelato, but it was done Euro style. So you had pistachio, and then you had very dark chocolate like on top. If you want, I can send you a couple photos of this just to show you what it is.
Just to torment me because I could not have it. But yes, send the photos, please.
But yeah, and then what they would do is they put like some pistachio. Pistachio is so ubiquitous now everywhere. They put some pistachio on top, etc.
And inside the cone.
Yeah, and inside the bottom of the cone, just in case you didn't have enough.
Good. What is the main difference? And I'm painting with a hugely broad brush here, but what differences do you find in the way Europeans deal with food and the way Americans do?
I would say first, to me, the two main things that immediately jump to mind are quantity and price. Because when we go back to the States, we're just constantly surprised, even though we know better, by how big the portions are and how expensive it is to eat out when you add in tax and tip, which are included in the price typically in Europe and in the rest of the world. So it's always a bit of a sticker shock and a size shock.
It's all kind of odd, though, because I think in America you really are paying for the real estate more than anywhere else. We went out just even for a Chinese meal just off the plane in December, and we sat down and we ordered like just the lunch special, which is now turned into like the $9 lunch special, which used to be the $5 or $6 lunch special. And we got, like, for example, a plate of chicken with broccoli. It's just a local Chinese place. And I swear, it would feed 3 people. It was unbelievable. So, yeah. So we were like, hey, maybe we should share next time we're through. So I don't know if the food has gotten more expensive or you really are paying for these businesses just to be able to operate more than anything else.
What about the mindset of what Americans are looking for out of a meal and what Europeans are?
Well, a lot of times in America, eating out, even at a nice restaurant, is a quick thing to do before another activity. Whereas in Europe, going out to dinner is the activity. And when you sit down, you're not going to be rushed out. Typically, when you have a reservation for 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., is your table for the night. You can stay there as long as you want. There's no rushing. There's no expectation that there's going to flip the table 3 more times. It's just a very leisurely event. Wine is both inexpensive and prevalent in most countries.
Yeah.
And it's just very leisurely.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I think is when in Europe, they seem to appreciate the regular. I know they appreciate them in the U.S. too, but like if you come in as a stranger to a U.S. restaurant, you you expect to get unbelievable service. You may not get that in Europe unless you keep going back. It seems to be something that has a lot of currency here. They really like the familiar people who keep walking into it.
In other words, they're kind of snobby.
I think they're in the community.
Okay.
I think the community, they like to know that Joe comes in. Like, it's weird. We were at a place here in Portugal, and this guy, one guy just comes in. They had his little seat for him. He sat down. He ordered the special. Ate the special, and he didn't have to say anything. Out came half a melon. There was the half a melon for him for his little dessert.
Great meals, great cuisines. Let's start in the U.S. You've traveled through the entire country. What are some dishes, some regional dishes that stand out? I'm not talking necessarily about that night at Commander's Palace. I'm talking about, let's talk about the great American regional cuisines.
First one everybody would speak about would be New Orleans. It is I think, alpha omega of everything is about this country. And I mean, gumbo, jambalaya. I mean, those are some basics. Trying to think, we've eaten so many great things in New Orleans over the years. Just unbelievable, like shrimp dishes, fish dishes.
Po' boys.
Oh my God, po' boys, all of that stuff.
Where do you like, Mindy, where do you like your po' boys from? I'm partial to Mother's, but...
We're Parkway people.
Parkway.
Parkway's good too?
Parkway, roast beef po' boy. I'm into that. With the debris fries.
Okay, you got to explain to people. Debris, or debris, as a chef there might pronounce it, is the leftover bits from roast beef. It's the gravy and whatever stuck to the bottom of the pan or otherwise fell off. And my recollection is it was the cheapest dish you could get back in the day, correct?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I would say that I can make a meal of just those fries itself. And it's just this really amazing gravy, and I don't know, maybe keep the debris. It's almost like burn ends. Like burn ends were always this in Kansas City with this thing. They would always be the extra stuff. Now they kind of like make them specially. I'm guessing the debris would be the same kind of thing.
Now this is at Parkway you're talking about.
At Parkway, yeah.
Look, New Orleans is the ultimate American fusion cuisine in so many ways.
But not the only one, because we also love Cincinnati chili, which has, chili, which you think of as like Texas, but it's done Greek style and so served over pot. It's over spaghetti.
And it's cinnamony and sweet. It's not sharp.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's Greek influence from the Greek immigrants who started cooking it back in the day.
Yeah, and I think that's the freedom. That's the freedom that people have here to have at least come up with a new thing. I mean, we were just in Buffalo. I mean, just in Buffalo. A few years ago. Buffalo has sort of a hidden cuisine set there where, you have the beef on weck, which is one of the really great sandwiches in the United States, or, of course, wings. Trying to think.
We were in Tucson about a year and a half ago. Yeah. And they have an amazing Mexican food culture there.
Sonoran Mexican.
Sonoran.
Yeah. They have the Sonoran hot dog, but they have other things like rolled tacos and...
Agua chili.
Agua chili is more Sinaloan.
Okay.
It's different. No.
Well, you've been reprimanded.
I have been. I'm used to it.
I keep referencing pieces I've just read, but there's a piece out in one of the food sites that declares Tucson the best Mexican food city in America. And, best being, that's a strange, who the hell knows, but I'll accept that it's a great Mexican food city.
You know what? Why can't we just appreciate it for what it is and not say it's better than LA? Because it probably isn't. But I mean, but it's its own thing.
How many miles of Mexican food?
21 miles of Mexican food. They'll serve tacos with the little special little green oranges that you squeeze on, and it's really, really neat.
But ironically, we kept saying we've just been, but we literally were just in Philadelphia in December, and we had excellent Mexican food there. So I think you can pretty much get good Mexican food all over America.
Of course, in Philadelphia, you're talking about something more Pueblan, which is from the Mexican diaspora, which in the last 30 years has totally turned American food into different.
Well, it's interesting because there's a food truck in South Philly called Tacos Pueblitas, something like that, but they are just killing with a dish that really isn't, as I understand it, from Puebla, which is birria.
Birria, yeah. Birria is like hot. Yeah, it's the hot thing. The funny part is I don't have a lot of experience with birria.
They've got this orange food truck. I live on the Jersey Shore, about an hour and a half away, so it's not really a hardship to go have birria at this truck, and it's astonishing. They take the tortilla, they dip it in the cooking liquid, they put it on the grill, then they throw the meat on top and more sauce, and if you want a quesabirria taco, they throw the cheese on. And then they close it and they flip it and there's more sauce. And then when they serve it to you, the cooking liquid then somehow magically becomes consommé. And you get a cup of it to dip this crispy taco into. And it's well worth 90 minutes.
That really gets back to an American. I will say, you ask about American culture in food. There is a push it. This is a reflection. This is a definite difference between here and Europe. People are always, especially in the food industry, I used to have a boss who used to say, when you're involved in our industry, we're always pushing. And it's a push, always, flavor, heat, like the whole idea of, I'm sure, Mexican food is very spicy. But when all those chilies started really becoming common in the United States, everyone's like, I can eat a hotter chili than you. It's like, no, I can eat a hot. It's always pressing and competitive. And I think that is a big reflection of American food culture. You see it in barbecue, you see it in sandwiches, you see it everywhere.
What kind of barbecue do you like?
I like Texas.
Mindy?
I would have to say I would probably go for Carolina or Kansas City because I like condiments more than he does. Yeah. You're more of a rub person.
Yeah, I'm like more of a purist than she is in that respect.
You got a favorite barbecue joint in Texas? I'm partial to Louis Miller's in Taylor.
Oh, well, it's funny. We were in I haven't gone to all of them. So, I have to really check this out. But we did spend a couple days in Lockhart. And I have to say the jalapeno sausage at Kreuz's Market was I would have to say, I haven't tasted a sausage like this anywhere in the world. Even places in Europe that there's nothing like that.
You were at Smitty's?
The brisket at Smitty's was just amazing. But I've never, the funny part is we were in Vietnam back in 2018 and there was a guy from North Carolina who was actually making barbecue, doing ribs in Vietnam. It actually worked.
Was it good?
Crazy.
They were very good.
Yeah, it was very good. But back to Texas, I would have to say that the Texas barbecue, I just like the whole idea of it, of that real low, slow cookery. I think they really have refined it to a point in Texas where it's so pure. But you like Kansas City?
I do. I like condiments and burnt ends.
And burnt ends and all that other stuff, yeah.
Well, there are those in the Southeast who would tell you that if it's beef, it ain't barbecue, that it has to be pork.
Well, that's they can think what they want.
I'm partial to Texas myself, which kind of opens the door to Southern cooking. You've explored that. You went to Charleston, among other places. Any thoughts on what's great or not great about our Southern food traditions?
Well, I'll go back to New Orleans and say that of course, Willie Mae's, if you haven't had it. Now, we haven't been there in a couple years, but as far as I can tell, the greatest fried chicken, which is something we can't get in Europe. Like fried chicken like that, it's just so insanely good. What was cool about Charleston was they were bringing a lot of new food ideas into that sort of traditional Southern cookery.
Well, I grew up in the South.
Where?
Atlanta. But I didn't really grow up eating a lot of Southern food. So it's not my first choice of cuisine, but I can't say no to hot chicken from Nashville. And some of the barbecue we ate in Memphis was very good.
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah. There was and
then the spaghetti.
Oh, you want barbecue spaghetti. But I like there was a place we ate at in Memphis called Payne's, which we really enjoyed. It was a different, also that was a saucy barbecue I liked. Mm-hmm. So it was a little more sweet. but really, really kind of balanced and a little charred. It was really, really nice.
Did you get to the rendezvous?
No.
It's interesting, barbecue has all these rules that are then broken. They're famous for their ribs, which are not cooked low and slow. They're cooked at a high heat over a direct flame on what used to be a coal chute. It's a fascinating example of all the rules apply except when they don't. It's legendary, and it's not traditional in that respect. In fact, the original owner of the Rendezvous was Greek, and his rib rub has a Greek element to it.
Well, when you talk about Texas, I mean, it's all about German culture.
And Czech.
And Czech, of course. We were just in Prague, and there, what's the Texas pastry?
Kolaches?
Yeah, kolaches. Kolaches. So, kolaches, I think, always existed in Czech culture. But now they know that all these Americans are coming, and now they have a kolacheria in Prague, like they've always been there, So they knew these people would be.
Well, they were in the Czech Republic. They were always sweet, and in Texas they started making them savory as well, and that's made its way back to.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it identified in Prague as an American? In other words, if you go have Domino's pizza in Japan, you're having an American food. That's what you think you're eating. The kolaches that have gone back to Prague, are they considered an American import, or are they considered a hometown food?
I think they're considered hometown food, but you can get an American style or American influenced version. So they embrace the American, but they don't give credit. Like they don't say it's American. It's almost
like someone from Texas was on like some kind of a tour said, "Oh yeah, where are the kolaches?" Or something like that. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we have them. They're right here, like with all our other baked goods." And like they see people going nuts, like, "Oh, okay, we got a lot of tourists that want this, so we're going to open a shop."
Did you have duck in Prague?
Yes. Goose in November. We're at the almost like Viennese style coffee house.
We had duck last time we were there too.
What do we have? Yeah, that was also the same kind of thing.
It's extraordinary.
So that's really like the same bounce back you'd find as in pizza too. Supposedly pizza was I read that pizza was never really popular outside of Campania, and now you find pizzas everywhere as if it's like a total Italian food, but yeah.
Other cuisines in the U.S. that you sampled and have particular thoughts about?
There's always New York. You always come back to New York. We were just eating pastrami sandwiches at Katz's last November, was it? Yeah.
And your view of them remains high?
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yes, you love it.
Oh my God, I love it. Oh, what else? What other cuisines do we like? What other things we like to eat in New York? Bagels. Yeah. I mean, we met over bagels. And New York, to us, New York bagel is really where it's at. I mean, everybody talks about Montreal bagels. No, New York.
It's funny. We wrote, during the pandemic, when we couldn't travel, we wrote a sort of a retrospective article on our favorite American sandwiches. And we got a lot of flack for not including the Italian beef sandwich. And the reason we didn't include it is because we had never eaten one. We had both been to Chicago multiple times, but somehow missed the sandwich. I think we were too focused on hot dogs. And so when we were in Chicago a year and a half ago, we ate several to make up for lost time. And I would have to say it's a very good sandwich.
It's great. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Where'd you eat? Where'd you get them?
It's funny. The first place the only place open when we landed was Portillo's. And I mean, it's got multiple locations. The funny part is, I don't think it was really possible to get a bad Italian beef sandwich in Chicago. And Al's was great. And then
Mr. Beef.
There was Mr. Beef.
Mr. Beef. Okay, now you've hit my favorite. I used to work down the street from Mr. Beef.
We went there. We had just watched the first season of The Bear, and we knew about it. I was like, I said to Mindy, we have to go here because of The Bear. That's the one place we have to check out, And I mean, whatever. I mean, obviously, sorry not to be too pure in that respect of not knowing about it beforehand.
We're a country that prizes fast food. We're a country that prizes convenience. We're a country that likes to grab and go. Have any advice for folks on the role food can and should play in their lives?
Food is about comfort. I think when we get too carried away, it loses its appeal. after a while. I think food is all about family, comfort, and of course flavor. Those things all have to work together. We were just talking about this. We in the last few years, we've somehow have gotten not roped in. We've almost roped ourselves into going these big dining Michelin-starred temples, going to these different things, etc. And I don't know, we are just tired of it. We would rather go to like a local. I mean, we have plenty of them here in Portugal. A local place that's family run, that's serving stuff out of a pot that's been simmering for 10 hours. Getting the idea, you're tasting flavors that have been handed down from from different generations, all coming through, and it becomes an identity.
Yeah, and just that, I guess something that really we've embraced while living in Europe is kind of what I touched on before about how dinner is the event, not the pre or post activity. And just to really slow down and appreciate the food, the people who made the food, the ingredients in the food, local, seasonal.
Yeah.
It's just it's really wonderful when you really think about what you're doing and stop to savor the food. I mean, not to say we love a quick sandwich on the go, but that's one thing. But just having a real meal with friends, with wine, there's really nothing, there's no better activity. It's funny when people judge us if we have an expensive meal. Meanwhile, they spend a lot of money to see Bruce Springsteen, and that's their thing, and that's awesome. But for us, we'd rather put the money into the food, and that's the experience for us.
But of course, lately we've probably been spending a little less on meals, and we're finding just some of the best. You going to Napoli, having pizza. I mean, we went to one of those really fancy restaurants, and all we could say to each other afterward was man, we should have just had pizza. What were we doing? And I mean, that relates to absolutely all over the world, America. And I don't want to overgeneralize, because in Europe, there are foods of convenience. They do have the kebab. In Naples, they have the foldable pizza, things like that. But to have just a great dish means so much more now than it used to be.
You guys are terrific. I'm so pleased we had this opportunity to chat, and I love reading your stuff or watching on YouTube. So let's mention the website again. It's 2FOODTRIPPERS.com. And
yes,
that is us.
We also have an active Substack, which we're every Thursday. We're not always the most consistent people in the world, but we are making a goal of every Thursday we're putting out a new newsletter sort of article where we're doing a lot of just our basic thoughts on food, dining, recipes, travel, all of those kinds of things in one nice little package.
And how does someone find that?
You would go on our website and sign up for our email list.
Okay, so it's 2foodtrippers.com, and the 2 is a number, not a word.
Yes,
exactly.
And we are also on Instagram, and we are going to be making more of a presence on TikTok. So I know everybody avoids the T word sometimes on our generations, but it's a bold new world of media that I'm still trying to understand.
Well, I'll be looking for that. And again, it's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. Keep living that life.
If you ever come through Lisbon, please let us know.
I will, and I will.
And we look forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Nice work if you can get it. Daryl and Mindy Hirsch, the 2 Food Trippers, on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page, and I'll see you next time.